Yeah, it's all out there.
Yeah, we
That's right.
I went out there one time, but I couldn't remember where it was.
Creekwood Drive. I live up there, fairly close to the farm, subdivision, right close to there also.
What brought him?
He's retired Navy, he works here, and he still works at the hospital. And they, they looked at a lot of places to retire, but they wanted to retire where they had healthcare facilities, and since there's a hospital in some areas, good choice for them. Good.
Well, Steve is such a. Hey, we got Mr. Bennett, Mr. West.
I do. However, yours is not a silver.
Is it my shoe? Should I rub it all over?
Right. If they would read it, they just listen to it and come to a conversation. Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. All right. You say your name's Drew. Right?
She said, yeah, you have so much clothes. And she goes, where did that come from?
That's okay. I'm compensated. Yep. Don't make us nervous. You don't tell me I got please.
No, please, no. Yeah, please, no. I'll go to sleep.
Oh my gosh. My daddy used to sing in the choir. He would be up there somewhere and well, there's no service. Oh, it did. A text will go. A text will go. My text went.
Is your Wi-Fi on?
Did you text it yet?
Yeah, that's right.
Guy on my right shot my target.
Yeah, that's right. Just so as long as he didn't shoot you. Yeah, that's the good point. All right, I think we're about ready. Good morning, everyone. We appreciate everybody being here today. And this is the Board of Adjustment. And I'm doing it now, so I would ask everyone if you would please put your phones on silent, or if you can power them off, that would be good. It sure helps in the middle of testimony not to have a distraction. So I would ask that you would do that. The meeting of the Escambia County Board of Adjustment for October the 16th, 2024 is hereby called to order, and we have 5 members present today. Will the clerk please swear in the staff?
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Members of the Board of Adjustment, copies of the staff's resumes have previously been provided and remain on file for reference. The board has previously recognized the staff as expert witnesses. Does anyone have any questions regarding their qualifications and abilities to offer expert testimony? Let the record reflect none is so indicated. The BOA meeting package for October the 16th, 2024, with the Development Services staff findings of fact, has previously been provided to board members. The chair will now entertain a motion to accept the BOA meeting package into evidence. And do I have a motion?
Motion.
I have a motion by Willie. Do I have a second? I have a second by Ross. All those in favor of this motion, please raise your right hand. Let the record reflect this motion pass unanimously. Madam Clerk, do we have proof of publication?
Yes, sir.
Did the publication meet all the legal requirements?
Yes, sir.
The chair will now entertain a motion to waive the reading of the legal advertisement.
Motion.
I have a motion by Willie. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Smith. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Let the record reflect the motion passed unanimously. The members of the board, have you reviewed the minutes for the Board of Adjustment meeting on September the 18th, 2024? Upon your review of the minutes, are there any deletions, additions, corrections to those minutes? Let the record reflect none are indicated. The chair will now entertain a motion regarding the minutes for the Board of Adjustment meeting held on September the 18th, 2024. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
I have a motion by Willie, and do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Marty. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Let the record reflect this motion passed unanimously. I'd like to tell you what the purpose of the Board of Adjustment and the conduct of this meeting is about. And we will now turn to our Vice Chairman, who will explain how the conduct of this meeting will be handled.
The Board of Adjustment, BOA, hears administrative appeals, variances, and conditional use requests. These hearings are quasi-judicial in nature. Quasi-judicial hearings are like evidentiary hearings in a court of law, however less formal. All public testimony will be taken under oath, and anyone testifying before the BOA may be subject to cross-examination. All documents and exhibits that the BOA considers are entered into evidence and made part of the record. The giving of opinion testimony will be limited to experts, and closing arguments will be limited to the evidence in the record. After hearing the testimony and arguments for and against the proposed action, and before making its decision, the BOA will consider the relevant testimony, the exhibits entered into evidence, and the applicable law. Because decisions of the board relating to variances, conditional uses, and extensions of development order for site plan approval are final unless overturned by a court of competent jurisdiction, the county may issue development orders and permits for properties in accordance with the decision of the Board of Adjustment. However, if applicable, requests the issuance of any such order or permit, and such order or permit is issued, the applicant and not the county will bear any risk that such decision may be set aside. The development order or permit may be revoked, or the development may be otherwise enjoined by the reviewing court. Any applicant for relief from a decision of the BOA for said action, or any aggrieved party as defined by state law may seek review of such a decision by filing an appropriate pleading in a court of competent jurisdiction within 30 days of the BOA decision. The date of the BOA decision shall be the date the BOA voted at the conclusion of the hearing. Whenever the BOA denies an application, no new application for an identical action on the same parcel shall be accepted for consideration within a period of 180 days of the BOA decision. Any person aggrieved by a decision of the BOA relating to an appeal of an administrative decision may, within 15 days thereafter, apply to the circuit court for review. Each individual who wishes to address the board regarding a particular issue must complete a blue request to speak form and submit it to the clerk of board. These forms are located on the table at the back of the commission chambers. You will not be allowed to speak until we receive one of these completed request to speak forms. We must have these completed forms for public record.
We now turn to the matter of ex parte communications. All written or oral communications outside this hearing with members of the BOA regarding matters under review today are considered ex parte communications. Ex parte communications are presumed prejudicial under Florida law and must be disclosed as provided by the Board of County Commissioners Resolution 96-13 before a decision by the board on any administrative appeal, variance, or conditional use request. The chair will ask, as each case is heard, that any board member who has been involved in any ex parte communications regarding the respective issue to please identify themselves and describe the communication. Ladies and gentlemen, we now turn to our case this morning. It's case number CU 2024-18, Pless Landing, parcel number 52S30 60 92 004 008. This is a conditional use request to allow an outdoor recreational facility requested by Clint Gishi, agent for Pless Landing LLC owner. Before we begin our testimony, it is my responsibility to ask each board member, has there been any ex parte communications regarding this case? Let the record reflect none. Is there any knowledge or information attained from a site visit or other sources by any board member? Let the record reflect none. Is there any member who intends to refrain from voting due to a voting conflict of interest? Let the record reflect there are none. I would ask now the individuals who are a party to this matter, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record so that you can be sworn in by the clerk. Mr. Gishi?
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
Clint Geesey, 2950 North 12th Avenue, Pensacola, Florida.
Could you, Mr. Geesey, could you speak up just a bit?
Yes, sir.
I'm old and I need help.
My name's Clint Geesey. My address is 2950 North 12th Avenue.
Thank you. Will you be having any other witnesses besides yourself?
Yes, another representative of the owner will likely speak today.
Well, if he could come up now and we will go ahead and swear him. Or she, I'm sorry, ma'am.
That's okay. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and address.
Lauren Holzman, 1207 East Lloyd Street.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Geesey, if you would like to make a short opening statement, we'll be glad to hear that now. Or if you prefer, we will hear the staff report, and then afterwards, of course, you will be able to make whatever additional presentation you'd like to make. It's entirely up to you.
Sure. Yeah, and I'll just give a brief description of what we're doing, and then I'd like to go into detail after the staff presents their findings. So basically, we're presenting a pickleball court as a part of the Plus Landing subdivision, and that will be located inside the subdivision on a common parcel owned by the homeowners association. It's one court. There'll be one ball. We're going to do everything we can to make sure it's not a nuisance to the neighbors. But we really see it as a compatible use, a good thing for the community to have, some recreational outlet. And it's the way I see it, it's equivalent to a basketball court in someone's yard or in the park. It's about the same intensity as that, and we know that coexists all over our communities and people, and that's something that people want. If the yards of these homes were big enough to have it in their backyard, I'm not sure, but I think the surrounding zoning would allow for you to put some kind of basketball court in your backyard. And so that's about what we're asking for here. And I know we have to do our due diligence and go through the criteria, and I look forward to hearing from staff and then responding to their comments.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You do realize that the project will have to meet all the criteria must be met in order for the board to grant a conditional use.
Yes, sir.
And of course, you have read the staff's findings of fact also.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. If we could hear from the staff.
Yes, thank you, Board. Caleb McCarty, AICP Certified Planner and Planning Manager for the county. First, we'll go through the maps and photography that we have on the site. Our first map here is showing the general location of Plus Landing, the actual subdivision. It's located down in Navy Point there. Next is our 500-foot radius zoning map. The zoning of the property is commercial. Our future land use designation for the property is mixed-use urban. This is in the Warrenton Community Redevelopment Area. And it is in an airfield planning district 2. I want to document that. And here's a aerial showing the property. This area is from 2022. The site is substantially developed at this point. Next slide. There's an attachment. Yeah, you can just go to the next one. All right. Here's our notice of public hearing sign along Leroy Poisson Lane. There's another one that we put out there along Leroy Poisson. This is looking north onto the site. This is looking northeast onto the site. It's somewhat of a triangular piece that the applicant has some documentation on. This is looking east along Leroy Paulson Lane. This is looking across the lane from the site towards the townhome development. And this is looking across the lane from the site towards the stormwater pond there. Now that concludes our maps and photos. If you'd like, we will proceed with our staff findings. All right, so again, this is a request for approval to allow an active outdoor recreational facility within the commercial zoning district. As the applicant stated, it would be a pickleball court. Concerning our criteria, criterion A related to general compatibility, we found that the proposed use of an active outdoor recreational facility, a single pickleball court, cannot be conducted or operated in a manner that is compatible with the adjacent properties and other properties in the immediate area. The subject property is properly owned by the Homeowners Association for the new subdivision, Pless Landing, which is a 60-lot, single-family townhome subdivision. Furthermore, the proposed parcel is located directly south of the 15-foot alleyway that separates Pless Landing and the subdivision to the north along Brown Road, known as Navy Point. We have an Exhibit A that shows that. Continuing, the Land Development Code defines the term compatible as a condition in which land uses, activities, or conditions can coexist in relative proximity to each other in a stable fashion over time, such that no use, activity, or condition is unduly negatively impacted directly or indirectly by another use, activity, or condition. Furthermore, the commercial zoning district limits operation to the confines of buildings and not allowed to produce undesirable effects on surrounding property. Due to the proximity of the single-family residential uses in the immediate area, the proposed use is incompatible due to noise that may be generated by the proposal. Note that the potential incompatible nature of the outdoor use of the property may be offset by requiring buffering, such as vegetation or sound-reducing walls, that could decrease the potential for adverse off-site impacts to the surrounding neighborhood. Continuing to criterion B, our findings concerning facilities and services, our findings show that according to the application, public facilities and services are not proposed for this recreational use. Concerning criterion C, on-site circulation, our findings show that based upon the submitted application, ingress and egress to the site will be established for pedestrian use only, and no vehicle parking or access to the site is proposed. Access to the property would be from the existing public rights-of-way and sidewalk along Leroy Paulson Lane, and that is constructed for the subdivision metal kiosk. Concerning criterion D, nuisance and hazards, our findings show that due to the proximity of the single-family residential uses in the immediate area, unreasonable noise will be generated from the proposal that will impact the neighboring properties. According to Section 5-9.2 of the Land Development Code concerning noise, prohibitions are, it shall be unlawful, except as expressly permitted herein, to make calls or allow the making of noise or sound that exceeds the limits set forth in this article or the county noise ordinance within the Code of Ordinances. Number 2 is maximum permissible noise sound levels. No manufacturing commercial uses that operate or caused to be operated any source of sound in such a manner as to create a sound level that exceeds the limit set forth below at the time of land use certificate site plan review. The applicant may be asked to certify the intent to meet the specified standard. There are sound limits listed in our findings showing that for commercial and tourist type operations between the hours at 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. the decibel levels are 75. That's the limit. And then between 10 p.m. to 7 a.m., it drops to 70. All right. Continuing to criterion E, solid waste. Our findings show that according to the applicant, solid waste service is not proposed for the site. If proposed, all the on-site waste containers must be appropriately located and are the responsibility of the property owners as necessary. Concerning criterion F, screening and buffering, we found that as proposed, the active recreational uses do not require screening and buffering by the Land Development Code. Criterion G, signs and lighting. According to the applicant, no signs or lighting are proposed for this site. If later implemented, all lighting must be directed away from adjacent properties according to applicable land development code standards. And then criterion H, concerning site characteristics, we found that according to the submitted site plan, the northern portion of the proposed court will lie approximately 2 feet from the single-family residential properties to the north. Although the proposed court does not meet the land development code definition of a structure, implementation of a minimum 5-foot setback will be customary. The shape and location of the site appear inadequate to accommodate the proposed court due to the proximity of the uses to the properties to the north. And then finally, criterion I, use requirements. We found no additional use requirements for outdoor recreational facilities that are specified by the land development code provisions. And finally, staff recommends denial of the proposed use as requested due to the proximity of the residential uses. Specifically, staff finds that the criteria A, D, and H are not met. That concludes our presentation and staff findings.
Does the board have any questions at this point from the staff? If not, we'll turn to Mr. Geechee for what additional information he would provide. Mr. Geechee, would you like to come back?
Thank you. Yeah, so to respond, directly to the criteria, we have items A, D, and H, which the staff found is deficient, so I'd like to speak to those directly. Number A, just letter A, that's just the general compatibility. Again, I kind of look at, what we see everywhere in our communities, basketball courts, tennis courts. This is the same level of intensity as those uses, which have existed for decades and continue to do so without any kind of harm for the most part. And so I don't think that's a far stretch to say it's a compatible use, as that's coexisted with us for a long time. Letter D, I believe, is probably the biggest thing that we need to address straight on, and specifically the noise. And I believe that's something we can look at objectively, because we do have the ordinance, sound ordinance, that gives us a decibel threshold that we can't exceed. There's been studies done on pickleball, and the average noise level is 70 decibels, and so that's below the 75 threshold, and we'd like to propose additional screening, fencing in the right locations to eliminate any basically a fence can be designed with a certain rating to reduce decibel levels, and depending on the construction, average 20 to 30 decibels can be reduced. And so, and to give a range of what we're talking about, because it's, we have a decibel level of 75, but that doesn't really mean anything to most people. And so to kind of set the scale, a normal conversation, like a conversation in this room, would be 60 decibels. And then a lawnmower would be 90. So we're about midway. The threshold here is about midway through that scale. And so when we look at pickleball being 70 decibels, 10 decibels above a normal conversation, and then knowing that a typical privacy fence can reduce the decibels by 10 to 15, that gets us at or below a normal conversation. And so that's kind of, we can look at it objectively. We have real numbers. There's been real studies done, and it doesn't have to be something that, that we can move forward with without justification. And so that's kind of our take on it. And we would like to limit the hours to daytime hours only. Design the fence specifically on the north side. And Caleb, can you pull up the site plan for me, please? Thank you. And so the north side, adjacent to the alleyway, we would like to install a fence along that side there. And that's really the location that we can, that we're most likely to cause a nuisance toward. And so whatever we can do within reason to address that straight on, we're happy to do so. And again, this is one court, it's one ball. We're just trying to give the residents that will live here an opportunity to have an activity outside. And in regards to H, again, we do have room to provide a fence, and the fence will be a lot more efficient at reducing sound than the any vegetation that we can install there. And I don't think that there were the staff found issue with some of the other items, but I would like to kind of touch on them, specifically on-site circulation, parking, any of that. We don't intend to generate any traffic. This court's for the use of the residents that live there. It'll be fenced in with a keypad. There should be no one parking out there. Anybody that lives in the neighborhoods likely will, in the townhomes will likely just walk to the court. And so we see that as a non-issue. Lighting, again, we propose no lights. We want it to be, daytime use only. And so there's really no intention to have that. Typical for, a tennis court or basketball court, you have a plaque that have the rules. The rules be no littering, pick up whatever you take in and just the typical stuff. And then lastly, stormwater. I know that'll be brought up. That's always a concern that we all have. With our original design of the subdivision, we accounted for that. That will, for stormwater will be reviewed. This project will need to go through DRC and actually do a site plan review, and there will be an opportunity to have engineering, county engineering review the plans, make sure stormwater's good, and we're not causing, any trouble. We definitely don't want to cause any flooding or erosion or anything else to cause the neighbors any nuisance. So with that, I'd love to hear what they have to say, the community has to say, and make sure that we're addressing everything head on. Thank you.
Board, do we have any questions for Mr. Gishi?
Did you present to staff the potential for fencing?
We have not.
And I see the drawing that is before us. I presume that's the alleyway that runs by the proposed court, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And across from the alleyway, are those homes? Is there homes there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do we, for the staff, do we have a picture that can kind of show us more of where that is?
Yes, sir. We can pull up the aerial and indicate it. I believe we included a copy. I think Mr. Giese may have included a copy of the actual plat for the subdivision that demonstrates that as well. If you look at the plat, subdivision was platted not too terribly long ago and is under construction now. It's that triangular piece right there on the northeast. That is a private parcel that's owned by the HOA. So that's also demonstrated on the applicant's site plan. So if you look at it in relation to the aerial here, as you travel right where her mouse is kind of pointing, there's a mail kiosk right there, and that's where the proposed court would be. And you can see the alleyway just north of there, a little sliver that separates those two pieces.
And these are homes that ring this entire area, right?
Yes, sir. Those are all single-family homes.
Okay.
Those would be the backyards. Yeah, the access to those homes there are along Brown Road, but those would be the backyard.
And if you can see, Mr. Godwin, if I may, you can see the close proximity of this proposed structure to those homes is and that's one of the concerns that staff has. That's why staff at this time made a request for denial, but it's up to you to support it or approve it. Compatibility is an issue, because that's right. They're almost like in somebody's backyard. And I've been knowing the Clinton now for a long time. Fencing is good, but fencing cannot, this project's still gonna cause some noise. So that's one definition. Can not unduly negative impact. So regardless of the fencing is not gonna shell out all of the noise due to the close proximity of the structure to those homes on that strip. And that is the primary concern.
Right. I was thinking, what about this court if now I've sort of got an idea of where it is. When you showed your schematic, it backs up against your own dwellings. Is that right?
Yes, sir, yes.
Well, do you think those people who buy those homes would be excited about having a pickleball court literally next door?
I would hope the person buying those homes would want that. That would be their choice to move there, yeah. And so, and to respond to Horace, right, I think there's a spectrum of what kind of fences you can build. I mean, there's everything from a chain link fence to a wall that FDOT builds for sound reduction. And so there is, we can provide a design that provides the sound reduction that is necessary. And so whether that's mass loaded vinyl, whether that's, some combination of wood and vinyl, whatever that may be, I think that'd be a reasonable solution, because, right, that is close to those neighbors. However, if you build the sound reduction, whatever that is, it'll stop it there.
I have a question for him, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
He mentioned a wall such as the walls that FDOT uses. Are you referring to those walls on the side of the interstate, those concrete walls?
Yes, sir.
Okay, because that's a concern also. I couldn't imagine having a beautiful home, and then having a prison wall right behind the home.
And we would. That's a good point. I mean, we would want to do something aesthetically pleasing that fits in the neighborhood, right?
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I believe we can do that to look like, basically a reinforced fence that you would typically see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could we go back to the photos? I think there were some backyards that were. Now, this photo we have before us, is this the proposed site for your court?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, and the only thing that would separate the court from, I presume that looks like a fence, privacy fence, would be just that fence. And how close would you plan to put the court to the fence line or whatever the property line is?
Right. So I'm not sure how close that fence is built to their property line. I assume it's on the back, on the line itself. There's a 15-foot alleyway that's actually deeded property to the county,
Right.
and then that begins the common parcel where the court will be built, and we're showing it 2 feet off of that. There might be some room to squeeze it a little bit further off, but it's pretty tight.
Yes, sir, and just to remind the board, there, in our findings, we show, and on the aerials, there is a 15-foot alley that is between the residence along Brown Road and this property.
There is a picture before us, and you see the fence there. Is there an alleyway on this side of the fence where the construction is?
It is hard to tell, based upon the photo there, where that fence would lie in relation to the alley. Really, the engineer would likely, and the applicant would know more about that because they were responsible for the plating and those type of things of the subdivision.
What I'm getting at is that if you are going to have a pickleball court that literally is beside, nearly nestled into the alleyway, that doesn't seem to be a very good place to have one, to be honest with you. I guess what I'm asking is, how much room are you going to have between the alleyway and the pickleball court? Is it going to, feet, is it going to be 5 feet, 10 feet?
Right.
What?
So from the property line that we share with the alleyway, right now we have it 2 feet off the property line, which is.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Right now, there's 2 feet separation between the court and the property line, and that's intended to place our fence in that area.
All right, sir.
And to answer your question, and that's a good picture there, if you can see it. The dash line, I believe, is the rear property line, and that's where I believe that wood privacy fence is
located.
And then you have the 15 feet there in the alleyway.
Right. So it's on the other side of the alley.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And so there would actually, in that case, there would be 2 fences between the court and those homes there.
I have another question for him, Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
sir. This alleyway that we're looking at and that wood fence that we were looking at, say you do put another fence on the other side of the alleyway. My concern now is safety and security for the children that are out there. Can you imagine what can happen in between that alleyway without what could happen going unnoticed right away? How would that be prevented? Someone getting raped, kids back there smoking or just doing whatever they shouldn't be doing, or adults. That's a concern for me at this point.
And so the other homes will have, there will be privacy fence there, and I would hope the presence of the community that we built would help establish security in that area. I think that's the best method to make sure that everything's okay out there. That we're going to have a lot of eyes. 2-story townhome. It'll be able to look down into the alleyway, and I believe if there's anything going on, those residents will let the authorities know.
I would sure hope so, because when you say to me that's not 100%. People go to work, they go to church, they go to school, they go to the grocery store, and while they're gone, they're just not looking out that window down that alleyway 24/7. That's just a concern, the safety.
Yeah. So, one solution to that is to vacate the alleyway. The alleyway's been there, and I don't suggest that.
Please.
I don't suggest that, but
can y'all keep it down?
I don't suggest that, but alleyway. That's what your concern is.
Keachie, just a moment. We need to have an orderly hearing here, and the audience, the individuals who have signed up to speak, are going to have their chance to speak. However, right now we're taking testimony, and these voices are not helpful to helping us make our decision. So I would ask that you please refrain from any kind of outbursts. It's not helping your position, and it's interfering with us, trying to figure out what the best way to decide this matter. So I do ask you to please don't do that. Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Geechee, you were speaking.
Thank you. But I believe your concern is intrinsic to alleyways and not necessarily the court. I mean, I think if the site was vegetated, you'd have the same issue. Whatever we do have the right to be able to put up fence to vegetate that side. Other parts of it is vegetated. Other parts of the alleyways in the same neighborhood have that same character to it. And so, yeah, I think, I'm not sure if that's something that we're causing with the court. I don't believe it is.
I understand where you're coming from. I'm an advocate for kids in this community, and they do need places to be that are safe. Mm-hmm. But safe, I just said safe, I feel if you're inviting more kids to this pickleball location, there's a potential for more issues. That's what I'm getting at. You don't see it being a problem right now, but once you start inviting more and more kids to that area, could that be a problem?
So, that's an interesting point, because it's pickleball's this crazy new, fad where there's, the range of players is from kids all the way up to, people in their 60s, 70s. So, it's really a thriving sport, and I think you would attract. My point of view is that having a presence there, it kind of establishes its own security. I don't see it as. We could put a playground there that would do the same thing, and I don't think that would require a conditional use. But I don't see that as a. I think that the presence that we're going to establish there, I think will secure itself.
I understand. Me personally, I don't think you can compare a playground to a pickleball field due to the fact that teenagers, they are capable of coming to the pickleball field on their own versus parents, being present with their little kids during day hours at a playground. But I see what you're saying. I'm not trying to say I'm against it, but I'm just very concerned about the security and safety of the kids and the elderly people in the neighborhood, on what potentially could happen between that area. That's 15 foot, right? 15 foot.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Once you start putting up fences, you start putting up concrete, barrier walls, sound walls. I start thinking of Oakwood Terrace, the walls that are around it. Do you want to make it a prison ground, or do you want to keep it a neighborhood and keep everything compatible, basically,
Yeah, we intend for it to be compatible, and whether we're allowed to have this as a pickleball court or it's a whatever is done with the common space, the intention is to provide something for the use of the community.
Yes.
For out, we need more opportunity for outdoor activities.
I agree.
And so this is what people want, and that's what we're trying to provide. And I think any other use, whether that requires a conditional use or if it's allowed by the zoning,
yes, sir.
I think that's a good consideration that we need to take is the safety of the alleyway.
And I think today is a good day to be here for this, because you say it's what the people want. So the people have showed up. So I'm interested to see what everybody has to say today. But that's all I have for Mr. Chairman. That's all my questions.
Do we have any more questions, Marty?
Clarification, this property is owned by the HOA?
Yes, sir.
And so it's the HOA that is pushing for this development?
Yes, yeah.
to the best of your knowledge, did the HOA take it to their members for voting for approval or disapproval?
So this, this subdivision was platted this year, and these homes are currently under construction, and so there's not a, yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
I've got a question. When you finish your development, how many homes do you project that you will have on this site?
We have 60, and that's
Just you have one pickleball ball court and 60 homes. Do you think that there will be any problem with usage? I mean, it's that many people with one court. I just wonder, is that practical to even have one?
I think people will likely be thankful to have that. Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Do we have any more questions for?
Are the homes single-family residential? Are they townhomes? Are they apartments?
They're townhomes, and they're all individual lots, single-family residential attached townhomes. I'm sorry?
No, sir. Yeah, you got it.
They are all townhomes, so single-family attached homes.
Do you have any more questions for Mr. Geachie at this point? Sir, would you like, I know that you have a witness, would you like to present your witness now? Ma'am, and you're still under oath, of course.
Yes, thank you. So my name is Lauren Holzman. I'm the COO with Adora Properties, the developer.
I'm sorry, could you speak up just
Yes, sorry, I have a quiet voice, so. I am the COO. My name is Lauren Holzman. I'm the COO with Adora Properties, also the developer at Plus Landing. I'm here today on behalf of the people who will eventually live at Plus Landing. We see this pickleball court as a way to provide a healthy outdoor activity for people of all ages and all skill levels. I have served also as the HOA president at a 92-home development in Perdido Key. There we installed 2 pickleball courts, also a similar setup where you've got backyards butting up to the pickleball courts. The only complaint that I've received in 3 years is that there aren't more courts. People really enjoy them. They have expressed 0 complaints about the pickleball courts, other than, like I said, they wish that there were more. Hence why we thought that bringing a pickleball court to Plus Landing would be a good opportunity for the people living there. I have visited the Navy Point and Facebook Nextdoor apps and wanted to provide some clarity on some misinformation that I feel has been somewhat distributed, which Clint spoke to some of that earlier, but I just want to provide a little color to that as well. The courts will be installed at Plus, not Triangle Park.
I'm sorry, ma'am, could you?
Yes.
Thank you.
The courts will be installed at Plus, not Triangle Park. There was a lot of chatter about the courts being across the street at the park, and I just want to make sure that that was never our intent, nor will that be happening. It is not a multi-court setup. It's a single court, therefore 1 ball is what we're talking about. It will be for tenants only, so we're not bringing in traffic from outside of the area other than for the people who are already going to be living there. It will be fenced in with a keypad, allowing only tenants to utilize the courts, again, restricting outdoor visitors. It will have a buffer to cut down on noise, and we're willing to do whatever you all require in order to make that happen. And it will be limited to daylight hours only, so there will not be night play. That's a similar setup as compared to what we have going on in Perdido as well. And again, no complaints from that community. Mr. Kirkland, you mentioned your advocacy for children, which I can appreciate. I have a 10-year-old son. We frequent our pickleball courts in East Hill often, also fenced in, but we really enjoy that playtime. It allows a lot of good physical activity for my 10-year-old son and for myself. We do appreciate this board's consideration. I think it's a reasonable request that we're making here today, and we're open again to doing whatever we need to do in order to address the concerns of the board in order to make this happen.
Thank you, ma'am. Board, do we have any questions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The townhomes are under construction now, correct?
Yes, sir.
Have any of them been sold?
They just were completed. We just received COs.
Okay, so if I understand what you just said, there are some owners now.
No, I'm sorry. The townhomes are not for sale. They're for rent.
Okay, so, and when would this court be built if it were approved?
I guess dependent upon approval, we could then begin construction once everything goes through.
What I'm getting at is, there's no owners of any of the adjacent properties at this time. So when and if somebody would purchase one of these townhomes, they would know that there's going to be a pickleball court in their backyard.
Correct. So any tenant who would be signing a lease to live close to the pickleball court would know that they were doing so at the time that they signed that lease.
Okay, thank you.
Ma'am, if I understand, then these will be rental properties, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And not home ownership?
That is correct.
Okay. Board, do we have any more questions? Thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
as an additional point of clarification for folks, hopefully to ease some concerns, I appreciate the witness pointing out it doesn't involve Triangle Park. That's county park. This is not a county project. Additionally, any concerns about vacation, any kind of possible vacation of that right of way? That's not being requested. Our department is one of the areas that reviews those requests. We would not be in support of something like that. That does serve as somewhat of a buffer between the higher density uses of Pless Landing and the lower density to the surrounding neighborhood. So that is not on the table.
All right, sir. Thank you. Board, do we have any questions so far from staff or Mr. Gishi? Okay. Now we turn to, we have quite a number of people, and thank you so very much for coming out on this morning. We appreciate you being here. We do want to hear your thoughts on this matter. So what I will do first, there are a number of people who have signed up but indicated that you did not wish to speak. I will just read your name, and if indeed that is your pleasure, that's fine, and if it's not, please let me know. But for the purposes of the record. Also, if I butcher your name, please correct me. I'm old, so you folks are just going to have to work with me. And
Mr. God, I got
yeah.
a question, and the attorney can help me out on. In order to preserve the record, although the speakers are not speaking, the ones that ask not to speak, Mr. Steve West, is it just to preserve the record, and just in case if this proceed to the next level of court action, is it good for the chair to basically, if the speaker wishes to say they don't speak, so that he can say if the person is in favor or not in favor? Is that good for him to do that, or just stay that?
well, I had planned to read the names, ask if the person wishes to speak, and I was going to indicate whether for or against. If that meets our council's blessing.
That's fine. They should be sworn
Right.
if they're going to provide any input to the
Right.
board, although as far as evidentiary value, a simple
Yes or no?
yes or no would not be something that the board would be able to consider having too much evidentiary weight.
Yeah. All right. Well, in
that's why
in
I
that
think they
case,
should
then,
speak.
I will just call your name, ask if you wish to speak. And as I say, if I do it wrong, please let me know. Glenn Conrad. These are individuals who indicated they did not wish to speak. Mr. Conrad. Susanna Starrick.
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Brian Nicoli.
Nelson, I will speak, can I?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Nelson, come forward, please.
I'm not good at this, but I'll give it a shot.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. State your name and address, please.
Brian Nelson, 502 Northwest Circle Drive. I'm a lifelong resident of Warrington, born and raised there. I feel this project is this pickleball thing is an attractive thing for this complex, basically. I think that the rent's been slow. When this was first proposed, it was for sale, condos for sale. And now it's gone into a leasing program. You ride by, we've gone from, what, $2,400 a month, I believe the units are. Now it's 3 months, half off rent. So we're striving to get some creativity here, trying to get some attention to this project, and I think that's kind of where the pickleball court comes in. My thing is on the activity of people. If you're familiar with Warrington, we have a 2-mile walk along the water over there that's been paid and maintained by the county. It's one of the nicest places in town. Please come by and hang out and walk it. You don't need a pickleball court to get activity. You can go from where this complex is, a block off, and you start a walkway that's along the water all the way around. So I don't know if that really holds water, but I just feel I think our community is being thrown a bill of goods to make this thing attractive. I would love for this thing to be owners, but I own 12 rental houses in that property. And let me tell you, nothing against renters, forgive me, the attention to detail is just not there. Okay, it's a place to live, it's a place to do your business, but the attention to detail, it doesn't quite exist. Okay, so we go in and rent these 60 units. We have 60 renters. Kids, safety, the lights go out, no lights. What's going on then? Renters aren't going to look down and go, hey, I'm concerned about this. Some will, most won't. And I say that because I have a little bit of, I have some knowledge in that. I've been doing the rental thing for, 30 years over there. So I've seen both sides of that. I just feel that this thing's been thrown on us to make the project more attractive. I don't think it's necessary. I don't buy into the, hey, let's get outside and do things when you can walk another 300 yards and walk along the water as much as you want and get all the activity you want. So I guess that's my point on this.
All right, sir. Thank you, Mr. Nelson.
Thank you.
Virginia C. Dolan?
No, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Cheryl Pollock. Come forward if you would, ma'am. Please be sworn.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and address.
Cheryl Pollock, 114 Holmes Drive.
Yes, ma'am.
From the standpoint of what was presented, there was a lot of evidence given or not evidence, there was a lot of information that was given that the evidence wasn't presented. There were no studies, information presented, there were no references given, and they tossed out a lot of numbers that talked about how they would reduce the sound by using multiple fences. No evidence was given as to what those fences actually will do. Those numbers could have been representing a specific fence in a specific situation. What I see, and I'm an engineer, as I see that they're planning on putting a fence along the one north side, sound wraps around that fence. They have it up against buildings. Those buildings are, what, 3 stories? Sound reflects off of those buildings. And so the people who live in that area, not only the people that are directly behind them, but the people who live in Navy Point are going to hear that noise extending over the neighborhood. Sound carries across water much greater than it does against buildings. So you've got a reflection going on, you've got a short fence that's trying to trap sound. It doesn't. How long are those fences that are along the highway? They run the whole way to protect those different neighborhoods that are behind that. You're not getting any numbers, you're not getting any references to studies that tell you where that study was done and what other conditions were existing around it. So I'm very concerned about the reflection off that building. I'm very concerned that the fences that they can put up cannot stop that sound from penetrating to those people. The location of that property is one of the highest elevations in Navy Point, and that sound is going to penetrate and travel across the water. One of our previous speakers talked about the activities that go on in this neighborhood. It's a very quiet neighborhood, very quiet. You can go out at night and not hear sounds. You might hear the highway, but the sounds that are happening there are going to penetrate out to those walkways. It's going to penetrate out to the park area, which is all waterfront park. And in this area, we have this long walkway that goes all around Navy Point. We have the beaches that are right around the edges of that parkway. There are places to exercise, there are places to ride your bike, there are places to walk, to run. All those activities are available. As well, we have a boat launch in the area. There's plenty of fishing, all kinds of things that can be done in that area. To me, the pickleball is going to be a reflective sound that bounces through the neighborhood, continues during the day, even if it's just one ball. If you're a sleeper during the day, we have a lot of elderly people in the neighborhood who do sleep during the day, and they're going to hear those noises. So I didn't see the science presented today. I just heard that there were studies out there. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Terry Trammell. Thank you, ma'am. Letta Crutchins? Thank you, ma'am. Ted Hawthorne?
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you, sir. And Mr. Conrad's already spoken. So now we turn to the individuals who have indicated they do wish to speak formally. We'll begin with Lauren Holzman. Oh, okay. Thank you, ma'am. All right. And Mr. Geechee. Laurie Cooper.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Name and address, please.
Okay, so I'm
You're-
really upset about this whole development.
Ma'am, could we have your
Can you
name
hear
and
me?
address?
Oh, Lori Cooper, 212 Brown Road.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
All right.
I live on the road that this court would back up to. There's a vacant lot that's actually 2 lots that are it's right across the street from me. So the noise would come right across that field into my house. I have had, I think, 2 years of noise already from this development. I think they damaged my home when they were paving this whole situation. I lost a car because of this development. When they cleared it off, all the rats came into our neighborhood. I lost a car engine over this development, so I am not happy about anything else that's going to disrupt my life. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, ma'am. Kimberly Kelfer? Yes, ma'am.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Name and address.
Kimberly Sandling, Kelleher, 203 Brown. I also own 201 Brown. And then I'm really good neighbors with the two people on the other side. They back right up to us. I have a huge bamboo. That is the only thing that cuts me off from them. And the pickleball court would literally be in our backyards. If you look out of my backyard 2 doors down, it looks like it's already in their backyard. As far as the alley goes, starting on Gilliland, there's no alley. I know because I owned 108 Northwest Gilliland, and I know who I sold it to, and they also own the other property where they've made the drive to wherever the alley is. From that end, that they're using in the middle of these 2 properties, one of which was mine. Anyway, there's 4 properties that are being disturbed right now, and I feel like market value is going down already. The noise will not help, and I stayed home all day. My husband works from home. That noise has already been a booger. So I'm concerned about the alley. Number one, because I haven't seen it. And they are literally backed up. And I did hear that they were backing right up to a fence that they were going to put up. But still, that's literally right there in my yard. That's all.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Marie Skopas?
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Name and address.
Marie Scopus, 402 Grieve Road. I live in Navy Point. I oppose the pickleball court. I know it has a noise decibel level, but it also, beyond that, it has a high pitch frequency level with 1.2 kilohertz or 1,200 cycles per second. So what is that similar to? That is similar to the noise a garbage truck makes when it goes in reverse, that beep, beep, beep noise. And the garbage truck is intended to be loud and annoying in order to catch your attention to be safe on the roads. So we're going to have this annoying frequency from pickleball. When do they play? Do they play in the daytime, or do they wait till the sun goes, starts to go down and then it gets cooler? Well, when it gets cooler, there's something called temperature inversion. That's when the air above the ground is warmer than the air near the ground. And temperature inversion happens a lot when the weather's clear, when the wind is calm. What it does is it causes the sound waves to bend back down toward the earth, and that increases the sound. I used to live in Minnesota when I was in high school. We didn't have cell phones, and in the evening we could just call across the lake. It would be like somebody was standing next to you. That's what's going to happen in the evening with pickleball. And then they're saying it's only going to be in the daytime, but what if somebody plays at night? Who's going to enforce that? Is the sheriff going to come and say, we're little grandmas. We call the sheriff all the time. We say, we saw somebody, they were parking wrong down by the park, and we're going to call if we hear pickleball at 11 o'clock at night. And the sheriff doesn't want that. He does not want that. And I think, I have one more thing. I want to say that staff oppose this. And I'm not educated, but these people all have scientific backgrounds, and they've looked at this, and they oppose this. So please take staff's opinion and don't let this happen. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Robert Brown.
No, thank you.
Mr. Brown, thank you. Susan Gunderson? Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
My name is Susan Gunderson. I live on Bryant Road. I've owned the residence for 46 years, and I've been very pleased with the neighborhood. When I heard this huge development was going to go in, I was very concerned. But so far, it's been good. But now this pickleball thing, it's just accelerated the problems that are going to happen in the neighborhood, in my estimation. I'm very concerned with the children in the neighborhood. The alleys as such are controlled by the residents, but with this pickleball court, I'm concerned that that's going to bring in a lot of other people. And who's going to patrol that? Our police? So we have to call them. But, you know, the development's already there, but I'm not in favor of this pickleball thing. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. John W. Gunderson.
Do you solemnly swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
John Gunderson, 215 Bryant Road. I just want to point out, the county already owns a very large park all the way around the water. It's in excess of 2 miles, maintained by the county. There's exercise stations. I walk my dog every morning the full 2 miles. And at the end of it, there's a playground for children that the county has placed in there and maintained very well. I just want to point out, if it's outdoor recreation or something that they're trying to get people interested in, it exists in Navy Point already. You don't have to add it. We've all lived there for years, and we enjoy the outdoor activities that are available to us. People have pointed out there's numerous beaches where families can take children. The park is sunup to sundown like all county parks. And, you know, I just want to point that out, that, you know, the whole argument about needing outdoor recreation, I just don't understand where that comes from when we've got so much in Navy Point that all of us in Navy Point enjoy and have enjoyed for years. And there's a lot of people that come in from outside and park down by the boat ramp, and they use the outdoor recreation. They run, they use the physical activities that the county maintains, you know, pull-up bars and whatnot. So there's a lot of activity already in Navy Point. So that's why I am not for the racquetball court. I also was misinformed, and I was told that the racquetball court was going to be placed on the Triangle Park. And I just couldn't understand how somebody could seize county property for personal use. So I was misinformed. But I do want to point out, there's already a ton of outdoor activity there. And, you know, if they wanted to promote it, promote that. That's there, it's available, and it doesn't even cost them any money. You know, I wasn't for this large complex from the get-go, and I'm not now, but it's there. But I don't think you need to add to it. It exists, and we've all enjoyed it for years. Many people in this room have grown up in Navy Point using these facilities. And the county has done nothing but improve them to make sure they're set for families and children. So I just want to point that out. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Meredith Reeves.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Name and address.
I'm Meredith Reeves. I'm at 209 Brown Road. My home is immediately north of this parcel. I don't have a lot to add to what staff said as the different criterion. I think they've done an excellent job, and I would encourage y'all to not support this. I would add about the criterion C, the on-site circulation, just because the alley behind Brown and Pless Landing is not really as shown on the backup that y'all received. That has been, it really is a dead end. It does not go all the way through. So as a resident, I do have concerns that because there has been encroachment by the development from an alley that typically was back there, that it's likely that there will be vehicle traffic, and not just by Pless Landing residents, so it's unclear if this is just for Pless Landing, but if it's going to be open, there are going to be residents and other folks that are going to utilize it. And we would see more traffic going through that alley back there. And again, if the applicant said that they might do a wall to mitigate the noise, while that may mitigate the noise, that would cause another issue as far as being an eyesore and being a detraction from our property value. So while it may mitigate one of the criteria, it would cause an issue with one of the other criteria. So I would encourage y'all to not approve this for our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Richard Mayberry.
No, thank you.
Mr. Mayberry, thank you, sir. Lisa Arnold.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Name and address.
My name is Lisa Arnold. I live at 211 Brown Road. So I've owned my house for quite a while. I just recently retired and moved into it full-time. And when these projects were first being advertised and so forth, they were supposed to be for sale. Now they are for rent. So now they're saying they're not going to light up this court, but, you know, fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice, shame on you. So that's what I'm talking about. The sound decibels, they mentioned 70 sound decibels. I did a real quick Google search because I'm not educated in that at all, and that's actually at 100 feet away. So I walked the property yesterday. I went back there to look. I thought, how in the world are you going to squeeze this in? You're already encroaching on the alley. And, you know, so if you put a fence, you're like right there. So that sound, I mean, it's gonna travel anyhow. And I have to piggyback on the safety issues and the safety concerns as well. Especially living there, there's already been more foot traffic, there's already been more trash back in the alley, and my fence does not go to my property line. My fence stops 5 feet before the end of my property line. So, you know, that's just one thing. Another thing to consider. Those are the only things that I wanted to bring up. So I thank you, and you guys did an outstanding job when I read your thing. So I thank you as well. So.
Thank you, ma'am. Darrell Camp.
Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Name and address.
Darrell Camp, 207 Brown Road. So I'm 2 doors down from the lady who just spoke. I'm one next to her, and 2 from her, too. I was out in the alley yesterday. I measured from, you know, they put grass in. So all these buildings now have grass put down. From my fence to the beginning of the grass is 10 feet 8 inches. That's a far cry from the 15 that I believe it's supposed to be. And even more importantly, going west, there is no, she mentioned it a minute ago, that alley is gone. Their street is in where the alley used to be. So as I understand it, one of the reasons for alleys is so emergency vehicles can get in from that side. In the event of a hurricane or something of that nature, you would need that kind of ingress or egress, or else we're stuck in our houses if possible. In any case, if the alley is supposed to be 15 feet, then 10.8 isn't it. And my girlfriend pointed out a couple of days ago, we were looking in going east, going up to Sunset, right behind her house, and it's messed up on that side too, on the east side, but on the west side, it is totally gone. There used to be an alley, you could go around, come out over there and go in onto Gilliland, I guess it is. Now, there's their street with, what do you call them, gutters along the edge. I mean, if you had to get out, you could drive over the grass and get onto their street and get out. But to me, that's not really the point. If it's supposed to be 15 feet, it ought to be. And I was very gratified to hear that these guys who do have all the expertise were against this project. And one other thing, I don't understand what one, what do you call it, court could do. What's one court gonna do for 60 households? Only in the daytime. I mean, can you picture that? What's gonna happen? I mean, people fighting over it? I'm not saying that's gonna happen, but it could. In any case, thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, sir. LaRua Barker.
No, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Philip Pollock.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Name and address.
I'm Philip Anderson Pollock. I live on 114 Holmes Drive and have a couple of rental properties in the area as well. I have a tenant who works night shift as a neonatal nurse and another disabled tenant nearby as well. First of all, I'd like to thank the county for the forum they provide here for us to speak and be heard. I want to thank the developer for actually asking for permission and not asking for forgiveness in this situation. And I think it seems the main concern with it is, first of all, that it won't be done at night. There won't be big stadium lighting put up, anytime with regards to this situation. And also, the noise situation, I think, is the main concern for most of us here. The young lady on Brown Avenue pointed out the decibel issues, the pitch of the sound can be quite annoying with pickleball for some people. And I would be, especially with their situation on Brown Avenue, I would be very concerned about it, especially with the noise reflecting back off the building as well with a fence put up. So my wife, Cheryl, she spoke earlier about, proper studies being done. It would, if this thing's gonna go forward, it would be nice if a proper sound study was performed for it. So, and I guess that's about all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Gary Biggs.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Name and address.
Name is Gary Biggs. I live at 200 Brown Road as well. And the noise is one of the bigger things that we're really concerned about. We have been listening to it for quite a while. Couldn't imagine it going on continuously with this pickleball. I know it kind of seems odd to me if they ask for 10 o'clock at night to be able to have this thing open. Isn't that nighttime? At least that's what I was told. They wanted it open from, 7 to 10? We're also concerned about a light. And even though there's only going to be 60 residents, they're going to have wives, friends, and things like that that may want to come play this. Are they going to abide by the rules? Is there going to be a keypad that won't allow them after daylight, And the traffic, please just say no, no, no to this pickleball thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Kenneth Stark.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Name and address.
Kenneth Starrick, 16 Northwest Gilliland Road. And I just have, my concern is mainly extra noise from the pickleball court. I think this whole development's gonna be pretty noisy anyway. Is when 60 concentrated condensing units start up, that's gonna be kind of noisy too. And 8 of them are facing Triangle Park, which I don't think was a good idea. But anyway, that's, my concern is we just don't need the extra noise of the pickleball court, because Navy Point is a very quiet, generally a quiet neighborhood. And that's about all I have to say.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Shirley Pope.
Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Name and address, please.
Shirley Pope. I live at 205 Southeast Kalash Road in Navy Point. And I'm also a pickleball player. I play 3 times a week, and I love it. So being against the court itself is not something I would be against. But I am against it being in this development. The people that originally developed our community made all kinds of, as it's been said, we have that, and it's about a 3-mile walk around that's totally concreted. You can bicycle, you can walk your dogs, you can walk, the Triangle Park, the playground. We've got enough because and I forgot to tell you, I'm a realtor. So I'm speaking today more about property values than the noise level that they've talked about. And then I got myself off. But we do have the Triangle Park that we have a lot of community things. I believe, as it's been said, that this pickleball court is not necessary for marketing. We already have that, and it doesn't cost the developer a penny. The county's been very good and very gracious to our neighborhood. There's going to be more people, more cars, more noise, more children. With 60 townhomes, you've got those people, those members, maybe children or whatever, and they have friends, and the friends are going to come over, and they're going to be able to enjoy our community, our concrete walkways, the water. There's not a house built on the water as it is over on our beaches that have happened. All of them are across the street so that anyone in the community that wants to walk along there and use the facilities can enjoy that water. We do have very many pickleball courts in Escambia County. Some are by fee, others are by a very little fee, and then there's a lot that are free. I particularly play at a church gym. It's a Catholic church. I'm Baptist. They're so good to all of us that go in there and play, and I don't have to pay to play. I am concerned about the 2 feet from the fence. Pickleball, although it's not dangerous, there are incidences when you fall. I fell last Saturday. If you're 2 feet from a fence, it's dangerous. And if you have anyone that is a younger person in there, they're not going to be thinking about the safety as much as someone that is of my age. The one witness said her only complaint out in the Perdido area was for more courts. I raised the question, was that from the residents that could enjoy the pickleball courts, or were the neighbors surrounding wanting more courts?
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Melissa Pino.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Name and address.
Melissa Pino, 413 Southeast Boblets. Thank you, Chairman Godwin. It's been a really long time since I've been in front of your board. It was Beach Access 4. Many, many moons ago, I think Mr. Godwin and Mr. Smith are the only people left from what was quite possibly the only other thing that was as equally ridiculous as I've ever seen having to come for conditional use on Beach Access 4 is this being asked for conditional use. And what I want to highlight is you've heard all of my neighbors. not dumb. Okay, nobody is saying we don't want this and waving pitchforks. What we are saying is staff has demonstrated that this is not a legal or desirable conditional use on this property. And Mr. Giese is so nice. Kevin and I met him at the pre-app back when people were allowed to go to pre-apps. And I would like to think that we tried to do you some good service, Mr. Giese, in telling you that ECUA was selling you a bill of goods, and unfortunately, I think you guys found that out. We aren't the only ones. This neighborhood has operated in nothing but good faith with this developer who has done nothing but wage a legal war of attrition on this county, on this neighborhood. Right now, this isn't the only other thing going on. I have Clark Partington, Will Dunaway, and Meredith Bush retained on the alleyways because they won't stop trying to encroach on these alleyways. And you heard, oh, is this a back door into finally getting the vacation into that northern portion of the alley? Just discovered they've got a corrugated pipe coming right into the middle of that county alley on the southwest corner that looks like it's going to be draining their pop-off pond right into a public alley, that I had to hire an attorney to demonstrate that their survey was wrong and go down to the BCC meeting. I think it played out over 3 different meetings, and you all probably wouldn't be aware of that, simply trying to retain our alleys in Navy Point. No one has fought this development, even though those of us that have some knowledge of how these things work realized they were never going to be able to market, and it's not 60, I think it's 66 luxury townhomes with the direction the market was going and everything else. Why should the neighborhood be punished because they can't get their development marketed? Look, Ma, no basketball courts. Because the other thing that they're dealing with is a rumor, and I stress rumor, going around that Forest Creek is going to dump out into this neighborhood, and I have dispelled that rumor with everyone that's brought it to me. To Mr. Gunderson, I would also say thank you for bringing up the Triangle Park. No one was saying it was going to be put there. What we're saying is, Mr. Godwin, are you all still allowing people to share minutes?
No, ma'am. The
You don't?
board doesn't do it.
Okay, I'll just finish by saying people were saying that it was a slippery slope towards recreational facilities in that park. Please follow staff's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. And last, we have Kevin Wade.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Name and address, please.
Kevin Wade, 413 Southeast Boblets. To continue on with the war of attrition and the war against the neighborhood is, and the amazing ability of staff to constantly take the blows that are handed down over and over and over again. I walk these alleys around Pless Landing. I did not know that you own this, some of these properties. There were 2 vacancies of alleyways that the county had wrong on its own maps over and over again when we requested documentation of those. We were told doesn't exist because those aren't the nomenclature for a vacation of alleys. And then it happened again, and it came back, and at one point staff met with Melissa and I out at this property, and we were told, okay, what you have here is right of way, so even if that vacation happens, there's still the alley doesn't disappear, there's a right of way, so you'll still be able to walk that alley to get from one end of the park to the other. I walk dog multiple times a day through this property, or not through the property, but around in the alleys. Well, the building of this has made it so that the alleys have been impassable over and over and over again. I'm not calling and complaining. At one point, a principal of Pless Landing accused Melissa and I of numerous calls to DEP, EPA, numerous authorities, busting them for illegal practices. Not the case. But Melissa actually paid money to an attorney, Will Dunaway, to open a dialogue. Because when we spoke with Mr. Giese at the pre-app, we explained, and he said, well, I understand. Maybe we can do something really amazing with those alleys. Right now, the alleys have telephone poles that are in the right of way, and it's just crazy. It's not nice. It hasn't been. It hasn't been march to being conducive with the neighborhood and not fostering aggrieved parties. The 80 to 90 decibels of a lawnmower, that's a horrible straw man argument. I can tell you blocks away who's mowing their lawn. And
Thank you, Mr. Way.
And they put up a sign keeping us from going down that street saying no trespassing that I would love to see entered into evidence.
Thank you, sir.
That kept us from seeing the BOA signs that had been put up. Those are your signs. They kept us from seeing those signs with no trespassing signs.
We appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Way. Now, at this point, if there is anyone who has not spoken, if you've spoken before, then the time has come. You've been able to exercise your opportunity. But if there's anyone who has not spoken, who would like to speak, now would be your time, ma'am. Ma'am, did you fill out a blue?
I did. I was one of the first ones.
A blue slip? Okay. Well, it must be in our pile here somewhere. I must have missed you. I apologize. Please be sworn and give us your name and address.
Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I will.
Thank you. State your name and address.
My name is Rhonda Eubanks. I live at 111 Northwest Gilliland. I have been there for 20 years as a resident in District 2. I am here to address the board, and thank you for allowing us to do so. Pickleball is a new and growing sport where a plastic ball hits against a wood mallet or paddle. Okay. The pitch and frequency is an annoying, repetitive noise, which can cause an auditory irritation that affects your health and well-being, even sanity. Neighbors will not be able to enjoy peace and quiet while relaxing in their backyards, not being able to open their windows, enjoying the beautiful weather, and not only speaking of the pickleball noise, will be also the screaming and laughing of the people playing. I personally have gone this last week to several pickleball courts and recorded the noises. We are not wishing to have the pickleball court built in our neighborhood. We should not have to give up our peace and quiet. And we would appreciate if you would vote no on this agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I believe that's everyone that has signed up or has to speak, has been offered the opportunity. We now turn to the board deliberations. And at this point, board, are there any questions that we need either to the staff or to Mr. Giese?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I have no further questions, but I'm ready to make a motion if it's appropriate.
All right. Is there any other comment at this point?
Was that a motion?
No, sir, not yet. He's just getting primed. Would you, is there any other comments from any other board members before we decide this matter? Seeing none, I believe, Willie, you wanted to make a motion.
Yes, sir. I would like to state before I make this motion that I believe that our children and our community, they do need more positive things to do. They do need outside activities and less time on Nintendo or whatever they play these days, and more time outside exercising. But at this time, I would like to make a motion to deny, according to staff's findings, because rules are made to be rules are put in place for certain reasons, and in this particular situation, we must abide by the law and vote the right way. And I would like to make a motion to deny it according to staff's findings at this time.
If I understand the motion before us regarding CU 2024-18, I believe that you've indicated that you wish to adopt the staff's findings of fact as presented by the staff.
Yes,
Is
sir.
that right?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Do I have a second?
I second that.
We have a second from Mr. Smith. Before we vote, is there any final comments? I will say that this is just, in my opinion, a badly placed idea. We enjoy pickleball, I'm sure, but the location geographically and where it is just not compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. I just can't support it. And when we talk about building walls and all this sort of thing, it just becomes a more involved and, in my mind, not really fruitful endeavor. So with that, everyone, what is, I could now call for a vote on.
May I seconded the motion. I just want to clarify that the motion was that the board accepts the staff's findings of fact and denies the conditional use.
That's correct. That's my understanding. Is that everyone else's understanding?
That's correct.
Given that, all those in favor of the motion as stated, restated by Mr. Smith, please raise your right hand. Let the record reflect that this motion was carried unanimously. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming. We thank Mr. Geechee for presenting his case. And I believe that will conclude this particular hearing. What is on deck for next time?
I actually do not have any cases scheduled for next month. So we'll give it a little bit more time, and I may send a cancellation notice.
All right. Well, I'd like to take this moment just to thank the board, and I appreciate the opportunity to have chaired for you, and I wish everybody well, and especially the staff, Andrew and Miss Rachel and Mr. Jones and all the compatriots. So, having said that, this meeting is adjourned.